Hi, I'm Amanda Lamond from the Ministry of Eternal Light. A lot of messages that I'm receiving at the moment are around addiction. And this is because all of our shadows are coming to light. So I talk about this a lot, that we are purging density, that everything we have kept suppressed is now coming into the light. It's part of this massive theme for the whole of humanity, collectively and individually in 2025, which is disclosure. That which has been hidden must come to light. And if you haven't seen my channeled message from the Council of Light for 2025 on disclosure, please find it on the Ministry of Eternal Light's YouTube channel. So this theme of addiction keeps coming through in so many of the messages that I'm receiving and clients that I'm working with. And it's a subject close to my own heart because I am what I suppose I used to call a recovering addict. And now I don't use that terminology anymore. I feel like the words I am, not I feel, I know, the words I am are incredibly powerful. And whatever we say after I am, we are literally speaking into being. So I no longer go to meetings and sit there and say, I am a recovering addict. My name's Amanda, I am an addict. I did that for years and I understand there's a place and a time, but it is no longer a philosophy that I subscribe to. In terms of my current understanding of addiction, I don't believe in the disease model anymore. I'm very grateful for the meetings and all of those things, but don't get me started because I could talk about addiction till the cows come home because it's been so much a part of my journey. I have a huge respect for Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and they helped me in so many ways, and I got my life back. There is a frequency that is created when people gather for the purpose of healing, which creates a very high vibrational field. It's not the case at all meetings, but there is something very beautiful. And David Hawkins, actually the author of Power versus Force and the Map of Consciousness and so many other extraordinary books, he talks about the frequency, the calibration of AA and NA meetings in some of his work. So it's fascinating. My current view of addiction is more closely aligned to Gabor Mate, who talks about it not being a disease. It is a trauma response. And everything that he says about addiction landed very deeply within me in terms of my ability to discern and resonate with a different truth at this stage of my own awakening. So there's a couple of pieces about addiction that I want to weave in, but the main reason that I felt called to record this video is so many people are having to face their addictive tendencies. And this video, I know, is going to, it's what so many people need right now. So I felt called to share it rather than giving it just to one particular person who needs to hear it, but to serve it more widely. So in the interests of full disclosure, I became addicted to alcohol and then a variety of other drugs. And really it began when I was about 13. This video is not about my own addiction path. It's not the purpose of why I hopped on here. But I feel it's important to let you know if you are struggling with addiction, where I'm coming from. I probably discovered around 13, 14 that using alcohol was a way to manage my feelings socially. Because of course at that stage, drinking socially at the occasional party was, the only way I was drinking. I certainly wasn't getting drunk before school. So for me, it was always a social thing. It was like the social lubricant. It dealt with the feelings, mainly the self-worth issues of making me feel, like finally the voices in my head that were, that ego narration of unworthiness and feeling like you don't fit in, like you don't belong. And, all this thing of, I was at an all-girls school and now suddenly we're going to parties and there are guys, and all that self-consciousness, because of course we never saw guys except at parties. all the self-consciousness, and I found that alcohol drowned out those inner voices. So now I understand it was drowning out that ego's voice, that critical voice. Went on anyway, ended up doing loads of other drugs over the years, and eventually I became addicted to cocaine. And how I describe cocaine is, instead of just drowning out the voices that said I'm not good enough, it turned on new ones that said you're fucking fabulous. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I've always been looking for. It's like snorting self-esteem. Like, you can actually, there's a product that does this. Isn't this amazing? Of course, that wasn't going on completely consciously as I describe it now, but that was the effect. I felt like, for me, cocaine was snorting self-esteem and making me feel all of the things I'd always wanted to feel. Like, I'm funny, I'm hilarious, I'm cool, I'm beautiful, I'm sexy, I'm energized, my brain is firing at a million, miles a minute, like, I'm smart. Of course, looking back, one can see, if you know anyone who's ever been on cocaine, like the enormous arrogance and how unbearable people are in terms of being so self-centered and talking about themselves and thinking they're the center of attention. But anyway, I digress. So I got clean at the age of 24, and that's now a million years ago, because I'm 47. And I am incredibly, incredibly grateful for the entire experience, and can see now that I'm purely committed to my spiritual path and the path of ascension, how it served me and how it was necessary. So I have zero regrets whatsoever. It was a necessary stage. And I don't believe in the disease model anymore, because more and more I'm not believing in the disease model as a whole, as I go down the rabbit hole of viruses and the pharmaceutical industry and big pharma and like what's actually going on here on this planet, and that everything's frequency and energy. But I think that if we just go to Gabor Mate's take on addiction, that it is a trauma response. It's a really helpful basic beginning. So if you haven't, go and Google any YouTube videos of Gabor Mate talking about addiction, disconnection, and how we heal addiction through connection. And he also explains that when we see it as like there's being something wrong with the person and keep putting this whole disease, you're broken, that's really detrimental. And it creates another whole layer of shame that the addict normally has, already in bucket loads. And now we add the stigma of like, you're an addict, and the way it's been conceptualized on top of that. There is a huge amount of shame that goes with addiction for various reasons. You're mad, you're unstable, you're not coping, the deception, the lying, the behavior, which you have your own shame about, and then there's society's, added shame. And in the Light Warrior Boot Camp, which is my biggest offering of really taking people who are here to make a big difference to humanity, who have missions. So light workers who have a big mission, that you're here not just to bring in light, but you are actively eroding the darkness, let's say. One of the modules that we work on in the 12 modules of that is shame, and you can purchase that as a standalone thing. So it's like a deep dive into shame from a cosmic perspective, human perspective, all the way up, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D. And my dog is jumping around today. Addiction can be understood really simply as an inability to be able to feel our feelings. So what we're doing is suppressing the feelings. We're trying to change our feelings with this behavior or with some inert substance that stimulates something in our brains, so that we don't have to feel what is coming up, because it is too traumatic. It feels like we're going to die if we feel the full extent of these feelings. And that stems from childhood, when various things happened. We gave them meaning. We have feelings that we weren't able to process then. And so the huge fear, the ego fear, is like, I cannot feel that again. I will die. I cannot feel that thing again. So I will do whatever I can so that I don't have to feel. Generally, it's those initial painful feelings that I'm avoiding, and anything that may trigger them. So, of course, this is all going on unconsciously, just this desire to, I have to keep this at bay. And obviously I'm talking about any sort of behavior here. It can be, for some people it's sex, it can be shopping, or it could be drugs, alcohol, etc. So it's about escaping our feelings. And right now, the only way we can ascend, the only way we can clear this density from our bodies is by learning to feel, to be back in the body. Because you can only ascend in the body, you can only ascend into your light body, this realization that we are multidimensional, if you are present in the body. And addiction means you're not present in the body, you are dissociated. So your consciousness isn't here, you cannot access the higher dimensional self, the other parts of you, like the coming home, the alignment, the remembering that we are part of God consciousness. That cannot happen if you're not physically present in your body, if your consciousness isn't here. And so addiction keeps you constantly like out of whack so that you're not in alignment. So of course there's a huge agenda in terms of the world of keeping people addicted. If you look at the fentanyl crisis and all of these things, which I won't go into, but there are active forces trying to keep people addicted. So that if you look at Yuval Noah Harari and these things about we'll just keep everybody scrolling, playing computer games and keep them drugged up. And if you look at a large portion of the population, that's what youth are being pushed towards. Like, get stoned, get high, put on your virtual reality glasses and like live in a different reality. That's all background to what is happening on this planet right now. But it's requiring of us, so that's a bigger picture. Individually, we're having to look at now, what do I do to escape my feelings? And we all do it. We all do it. For some people, it's simply keeping busy. I definitely have a busy program going on, because if we're busy, we don't have to feel. And that was picked up when I was in treatment, like extended treatment for drug addiction. I was asked while staying in this house with other recovering addicts, which they call secondary care, after your primary care in a rehab center. I was asked why I ran everywhere, like up and down the stairs. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, no, but you always like run up and down the stairs. And I was like, that's just how I move. And basically you get called on your stuff the whole time. And it's taken years to really look at how much my rushing about is part of, I don't have to feel if I'm rushing about at high speed. And also that there's a dopamine kick that you get from the rushing. And from achieving things. So if I'm achieving lots of things and I'm ticking things off my list and I'm racing across the road and in the shop and I've done that and ticked this off my list and I've sent this email, there is like a dopamine rush that you get from that. So again, low dopamine levels, you're looking for that high from an external stimulus all the time. I'm going to share with you now a message that I sent to somebody earlier, because I think that there is a lot in there, and let's see after I've read it what more comes out. Okay, so the start of this message is just looking at the different aspects that we become addicted to, because it's not just the feeling that you get, the actual high from the substance, but it's often around like who are you using with, or if it's alone, what is that giving you? For some people, it's their only like alone time is when they're using their drugs or alcohol or whatever it is they're doing. And for other people, it's social. So there's like something social that's attached to that, or there's deceptive behavior, which also gives us a kind of boost or dopamine hit. And so I'm looking at all the ways that one is addicted to your addiction. Like, what is all the patterning going on? I want you to think about the highs that you experience. So not just from the particular drug or behavior, but the deception that you're able to pull off. Because there's something powerful about maintaining that facade. It's like you can live two lives at once. On the outside, you seem just like everyone else, an upstanding citizen, someone people admire or look up to, and that gives you a sense of safety. But in the moment, you get to hide the parts of yourself that feel broken, unworthy, or like you're not enough. this was certainly part of my own journey. I was a straight A student and on the Dean's Merit List for academic performance at university. And so I led a complete double life because I was taking huge amounts of drugs and, getting drunk. Again, socially, it wasn't like before university, but I was leading this, look, here I am achieving and how wonderful. And I was doing this in high school as well. And so everyone's going to leave me alone because I'm also a prefect at the school and I'm head of this and that and the other thing. But meanwhile, I have this other life going on. And part of that needing to hide is that deep feeling of feeling like broken or unworthy and not enough. And so I needed to keep the double life going. And that became addictive in itself, leading the double life and getting away with it. There was definitely a thrill from that. And I want to add, because it may help somebody, but when I got clean and I had to look at all the different aspects of self, getting clean is part of your call to awakening. And one part of myself that I discovered was, I called it the vamp. The vamp who liked the slightly high risk behavior, like the dodginess. And yes, I used to sleep with people, when I was high or drunk. And there was this kind of like a looseness that I embraced, like the dark side. Now, if you think of how that's been glamorized today, oh my God, I can't pick up a magazine or watch a music video without thinking, Christ, what is my kid being exposed to of what is glamorized as cool? But there is this part of us we have, which I called the vamp, that side that wanted to rebel. And when I got clean, I had to befriend this part of me and go, okay, where can I find healthy avenues for this self to express herself that is not in a self-sabotaging, damaging, and destructive way to myself or others? If you're caught in an addiction cycle, I want you to think about the different selves that are involved. And in this way, your addiction becomes a call for your own awakening, because everything is. Everything that we experience here on this planet is a call for our soul's evolution and awakening. And when you try and get clean and you fail, that is a call to awakening, because you're able to observe, there's one part of me that wants to get clean and stop this behavior, which is clearly like destructive, and I'm destroying my relationships and myself and my health and my career, whatever else it is. So there's this part of me that wants to stop, and then there's this part of me that doesn't want to stop, the part of me that keeps using. Now, right there, when you start to observe there are different selves, that can be a portal to your awakening, that there isn't one self in here, that the identity is constructed, and that there are many selves. There's this inner child, and that has needs which aren't being met and which weren't met in childhood. So it is a helpful part of the process to start looking at the multiple selves, not because you have multiple personality disorder. We all do. We all have these multiple selves. And when you start rising above that and looking at all these selves and seeing through the construct of your own ego, that's when you have this opportunity to shift into a higher level of consciousness. I am not that. There are all these selves playing out. I am none of them. I am the creator of all these selves. I observe them all. I am the witness. So to return, leading this double life, sometimes really needing that affirmation. So being somebody that people looked up to. So in my case, I became a lawyer, although I was already clean by the time I became a lawyer. I got clean at university. But this need to hide the parts of ourselves that are broken or unworthy and not good enough, that's common to all humans. And it is a deeply human response to pain. So all of us, we have been through things. And whoever's watching this, you've been through things that have shaped you in ways that you couldn't even control. You didn't ask for that trauma, but it became part of who you are. Maybe it was neglect, emotional abandonment, or just never feeling seen or valued for who you truly are. That feeling of wanting to be different or special comes from those old wounds, the ones that you've buried. So when you present yourself as someone who fits in and someone who's just like everyone else, it feels like a shield from those deeper feelings. So you're protecting yourself from the shame and hurt that come from that unhealed trauma. Being special and different is something that's spoken about a lot in addiction recovery circles. I remember that being used as a criticism, like every week in rehab, you got something you had to work on and was put on the board, like publicly, so everyone could see it in the rehab. And I remember this thing of like, you think you're special and different being used as a criticism. And I still have issues with it because we are special and we are different. But I do understand the program that they're trying to work with there, where you don't think you're like other people. Like, well, my addiction was different. My trauma was different. I have a reason, that I behaved like I did. My problem isn't as bad. And it's fascinating when you go to AA meetings and there's like people from all walks of life. There's a homeless person and a lawyer and a doctor and a PhD, whatever, philosophy, major, and an artist and a dog walker. And there you all are with the same wounds, because we are all human and you're all trying to outrun your feelings. And as people share their stories, you realize like it's the same shit. It doesn't matter what the outside is doing, the credentials, the clothes you're wearing. Underneath it all, it's exactly the same. And that's what they're trying to get at with the special and different. Nope, they used to say you're just a common garden variety addict. So here's the thing, that when you deceive people into thinking you're like them and that everything's okay, it gives you a temporary sense of relief. And it's like you get a little boost, a moment where you can escape the chaos of your inner world. It's a feeling of control, almost like you're proving to yourself you're capable of fooling the world and maybe even fooling yourself for a while. You feel special in your ability to hide and to be someone else in front of others. I definitely felt like I was fooling the world, and that gave me a sense of control when actually I had no control really over my spiraling addiction. But here's the thing, the high doesn't last forever. The more you hide, the more you create a distance between your two selves. The part of you that is really struggling, okay, so there are multiple selves, but here we're talking about two. There's that part of you that's really struggling, that is hurting, and that gets pushed deeper into the shadows. And in time, it begins to feel like you're living in two different worlds, and you never belong fully to either one. And the longer this deception lasts, the more exhausting it becomes. And you start to feel even more disconnected from who you truly are underneath it all. And that's what trauma does to you. It teaches you to hide and to protect yourself and to survive. But you don't have to keep running from the pain. You don't have to keep pretending. You can come home. And what is underneath all of this pretending and hiding and deception is just a part of you that has been hurt. And that part is asking for attention and for healing. And it takes a lot of courage to go, I'm going to do this. And along the way, you may find the saboteur comes in, this other part of you that goes, oh no, I'm not doing this. Yes, I thought I was ready, but not this week, not this month, not this year. When I get married, when I've had a kid, when I get this job promotion, when I lose my job, when this thing happens, then I may be ready, but not now. So always pushing it out, because the fear of doing it now, that ego fear of I'm going to have to feel everything I've been running from. And the longer you've been running, the more you have built up the fear into this extraordinary, huge monster that has the complete potential to destroy you. And you're so focused on that, you're not realizing that never mind this illusory fear, you're busy fucking destroying your life now. By running from that fear, you're sabotaging everything anyway. So there will be attempts when that saboteur comes up, and you have to learn to start dialoguing with these different parts of you and really nurturing the voice that goes, I want a different life. I'm tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired. I know there's more. I was kept alive for a reason, particularly looking at high risk behavior. Like, I can't believe I was kept alive. And it was one of the openings for my spiritual path when I was like, I think I was kept alive for a reason, because I shouldn't be, based on a lot of the shit I was doing. But here I am, and I didn't believe in a vague idea of God, wasn't believing in angels. I just didn't really think about that shit very much. But when I got clean and stayed clean, I was like, something kept me alive. And I'm going to figure out why I'm here. And I'm going to get back on track. And I'm going to figure out what my purpose on the planet is. And I'm going to do that thing. Because I was so grateful. So all of these parts that come through of like looking for your mission, being grateful, starting to consider a higher power and what that might be and why we're here and why the fuck it was so hard and what we're going to do next and how we're going to take better care of ourselves. All of these things are your awakening. And it was, in my case, and maybe in yours, the addiction which propelled me in the direction of all that is good and all that is beautiful and all that is amazing and holy about my life right now. I wasn't expecting this flood to come forward, but I'm not going to click stop. I'm not going to click stop recording because this is what happens when you go a layer beneath that ego self, a layer beneath the personality, the intellect that is showing up in one way. And we all have this, okay? We have to operate here. There is that still facade which gets ever closer to the truth. And then there are these moments when you crack through, like now, into your heart, when you just feel this expansion, and that is a coming home. And so these tears are tears of gratitude. Gratitude that I made it through a really, really dark time in my life. I'm getting a tissue. Gratitude that I made it through that after the ages of like 16 to 24, when my behavior was really high risk and very self-destructive, that I made it through relatively unscathed. I say relatively because there was shit. But I got another chance, and I've heard Alcoholics Anonymous described as the second chance club. And I love that. But we're all in a second chance club. You can change your life at any moment. So I got a second chance. I got a chance to heal. I am grateful that my parents made it possible for me to go to treatment, not just once, but again, because I fucked up the first time. That I had beautiful people who helped me see what was going on. I had counselors. I made new friends. I made friends who were also getting clean. And I was able to rebuild my life and start to love myself again, because I think the thing that was the hardest about it all is the level of self-hatred that you have when you're in addiction. And what I understand now is because that is when you are furthest from the light. When you are in self-hatred, the vibration is so low that you feel completely cut off from God. And that is the darkest part of your life, when you feel that complete separation. You feel unworthy, unlovable, and filled with self-hatred. And that means you're not able to feel any of the love that is in the world. You feel cut off and so desperately alone. And that is why the path back to healing and recovery is through connection because of that loneliness. And when I think that it was this path that it seems so terrible, but it's what brought me here. It's what brought me home to the love of God and to the experiences that I have now. And it was a necessary part of the path that allowed me 2 years ago to have the most extraordinary experience of illumination and Christ consciousness and self-love. And this period of 2-3 weeks when I looked at other people and was able to see their souls, and all I could feel was love. And no, I wanted to go, like, to talk, to tell people, because that's what happens when you are flooded with this amount of love and light. I wanted to tell people, like strangers, do you know how loved you are? And I know I would have seemed like a mad person, so I didn't do it, but it's all I could feel. And it was the most beautiful feeling in the world to exist in the truth that we are made from love, and to literally be able to look at other people and see that. It would come in waves, on and off, and I would weep a lot with joy and gratitude. I wept with joy and gratitude because, oh my God, life is holy, and we just don't see it because of this low vibration we're in. So today I am grateful for everything that happened that allowed me to get to this point of my life and to help lift other people up who are in this darkness, who are in this self-hatred. And I couldn't do it if I hadn't been there, because then I would be telling you theory instead of telling you from my heart what it is like to hate yourself, and that it is possible to come so far out of that you are in complete illumination, loved by God, and knowing that you are home. I can't hold that all the time now because it was a higher state of consciousness that happened during January 2023. And now my guidance team is showing me how to get back to that, to that higher state of consciousness, that higher dimensional consciousness, the fifth and above, where you do feel flooded with this joy and gratitude. Now it comes in little bursts, but I was allowed to have a big, like a dollop of it, if you like. You know, if you picture drinking from a water fountain, instead of just taking a sip now and again and going, oh my God, you know, this nectar of the divine, I was like able to glug a whole lot and just be flooded with it. And that's why I speak about it being intoxicating. This is the love and the light of God, which is intoxicating. And it's why we're here, is the separation from God, and then we journey back home. This video is taking me places I had not planned to go today. But anyway, I'm going to return to the message that I had written down earlier. Okay. So where was I? The deception is how we protect ourselves from the wounds that we've carried. But the truth is that you're not broken. You don't need to hide anymore. And you can start to rebuild and to show up as your real self. You have survived. And now it's about learning to live without that mask and to face the pain head on, which is never as bad as you thought, so that you can finally heal. And it's a process, and it's not an easy one, but you are not alone. There are so many of us. So many of us. And you deserve to feel safe in your own skin, just as you are, without needing to hide yourself from the world. And more importantly, to stop hiding from yourself. I then set out, as I was exploring this topic a little bit earlier, I set out this pattern to spiritual healing from addiction. So if we look at point 1, you're living an unconscious life. You're stuck in this false matrix system. The world doesn't actually make sense. I mean, really, it doesn't. And you keep running on this treadmill, and you're trying to earn a living and amass enough external accolades or material possessions to help you escape the feelings of unworthiness, lack, and shame, and this not good enough feeling that is pervasive in humanity across all cultures, across all civilizations. In many cases, the trauma that we have experienced is significant enough that we avoid facing our interior world through addiction, through substance or behaviors. Number 2, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you decide to face your trauma, to stop running and to stop hiding and to get curious. What is this about? What am I actually running from? 3, you confront it and you start to see that it's not as scary as you think. It's like the monster under the bed. When you turn on the lights and you get on your knees, and then I wrote in brackets prayer, because when you get on your knees, that's when you start praying. But you get on your knees and you look under the bed. There's nothing there. You turn on the light. So you flood it with light. And really what you find is memories, unprocessed feelings. So then you can stop the numbing and learn to feel. And you start to feel better. But at this stage, most of us are still then. So we are more healed identity. So we've healed our ego. It's not so much the like frightened, wounded, traumatized child, but you're still in ego consciousness. And some people get stuck there because they still, most people in the world who haven't awoken, are still trying to feel whole and worthy and lovable. So although they're not in the like broken trauma, I'm an addict using drugs all the time to escape my feelings, they are still looking to the external world and still believe that they are this ego self. And then we have like step 4, which is you wake up and you realize I'm not that human self anyway. That personality, that wounded character that had all this shit happen to her, that's a construct. It's an identity that I created and I designed before I came here in order to have all these experiences and to wake up. So then you realize I've just had a bunch of childhood experiences and conditioning that have shaped all of these beliefs and created the filter of self-perception and how I perceive the world. And I then keep projecting that into my reality because I am creating the reality I experience. And then you go, I am the projector of all of this. Like, oh my God, this is a dream. I'm a conscious dreamer now. In the dream, I'm creating all of it. And you learn to witness the self from a cosmic perspective. You have a higher vantage point. Now, most people never get to stage 4. That's okay. Their souls aren't ready to awaken, but they manage to get to a point of, self-love, self-approval, where they're leading pretty successful and more or less happy lives. That wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. I wanted to know the truth. Why are we here? What the fuck's going on? Why did I incarnate at all? What's my mission? Like all of those questions that I shared earlier. So I guess this video is for those of you who are somewhere on this path, but it's those of you who need to get to 4, the light workers who I'm talking to. This isn't a general addiction video. It's to the light workers who have a mission. Because the Council of Light shared this, so I put this in the message. All of this awakening begins with each soul starting to love themselves long enough that they start to vibrate at a higher level, which eventually enables them to feel the love of God again. And this is what awakening is actually about in the beginning. You need to break the sense of being so separate from God, which is so painful that you keep numbing yourself with addictive behaviors. All pain is separation. You have forgotten you are fully worthy, divine, sovereign. You are a powerful spiritual warrior, and you've been engulfed in Earth's density so long that you've forgotten who you are. But you can't skip the stages. You've got to face the trauma. You've got to learn how to feel again. You've got to be present in your body in order to then ascend and start accessing the higher self. The 4D realm is not so much a self, it's the realm of all possibilities. Then there's the 5th dimensional, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you realize we are these extraordinary, glorious, unlimited, infinite, immortal souls of such light. That is who we are. And yet one portion of us has incarnated here to have this human experience in the Earth school. because it's one of the toughest schools. Oh my God, it's a tough school. And so if you've been battling, you're not alone. And the whole planet's been enslaved, and it's been pretty complicated being here. But if you're watching this, it means you're awake, because you wouldn't have been drawn to this video and you wouldn't still be listening. I know that with all my heart. That's making me cry again. You wouldn't be here listening to me now. You would have given up on this video long ago if you weren't able to resonate with the truth that I'm sharing with you. So if you're enduring a long, dark night of the soul, if you are lost in addiction and you're a light worker, know you're not alone. Addiction is so common in the path of light workers. Like, I don't know, I haven't done statistics, but, you know, you could say 50, 60, 80, 90% of light workers have experienced major trauma and often addiction in their pasts. And remember that it can be the door to your awakening. So don't fight it. Don't fall into the shame pattern that sucks you down, that the darkness spiral gets too much and you don't want to be here anymore and you end it, because that's happening too, and it's a soul choice. You can spiral upward. Everything that has happened is a door that is opening you, that is opening this pathway ahead of you, leading you forward, so that you ask the questions. Why am I here? What's it all about? You reach up to God. You're like, okay, maybe you didn't believe in God before, but on your knees in addiction, you go, dear God, help me now. Like, I'm tired of this. I can't do this anymore. And all of these things are opening portals to the divine. This ability, as I said, to see the different cells. Okay, one part of me wants to get clean, one part doesn't. There's a whole lot of cells in here. Okay, I'm going to start looking at who are all these different parts of me. What is it I'm running from? Maybe I want to stop running. What am I actually like when I'm not pretending and lost in this world of deceit and trying to prove to other people and hide this and be good enough? Like, putting all that shit down. Who am I? So I hope that you ask the bigger questions. I hope you know that there is so much hope and light and love, even if you're in the darkness of your addiction. And reach out if you think I can help you, because that's what I came here to do, to help light workers and light warriors who have big missions to set themselves free. I love you, and thank you for being here. You can find me at the Ministry of Eternal Light on YouTube, on Instagram, and where else? My email list. And just don't give up. It's often darkest before the dawn, but the world is going through such an extraordinary awakening. The shift is happening so fast. And so if you've been stuck and lost in your addiction, it's going to have accelerated. And it's time to, if you're doing this, it's time to pop out, okay? Pop out of the chaotic spiral of addiction and catapult yourself into a whole new level of being and wonder and love. Bye.